from the Post-Millennial. Breaking: federal judge temporarily blocks Trump executive order ending birthright citizenship. The case was brought forth by the attorneys general of Arizona, Oregon, Washington, and Illinois on Tuesday against the executive order. U.S. District Judge John Coffenauer issued the ruling in a case brought forth by the attorney generals. According to ABC News, the suit stated the plaintiff states will also suffer irreparable harm because thousands of children will be born within their borders but denied full participation and opportunity in American society. Absent a temporary restraining order, children born in the plaintiff states will soon be rendered undocumented, subject to removal or detention, and many stateless. Let me just stress this to everybody who watched our amazing episode with Thomas Massey. There was a question about the intent of the 14th Amendment, which, of course, states that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to its jurisdiction therein are citizens. And as I described it, as my limited readings of the Civil War, I am by no means an expert. It was very easy to conclude the intention of the 14th Amendment was descriptive, not prescriptive, that the amendment was stating all of the people as of right now who were born here and subject to our jurisdiction are citizens, right? Done. And here's what gets better. The argument is, no, it means that from this point forward, anybody who's born here is a citizen. That's actually not correct. And I have the tweet just for you because it was Jacob B. Howard during the congressional debates on the 14th Amendment, specifically addressing the issue. And I quote, "This amendment, which I have offered, is simply declaratory of what I regard as the law of the land already, that every person born within the limits of the United States and subject to their jurisdiction is by virtue of natural law a citizen of the United States. This will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens, who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States, but will include every other class of person. It settles the great question of citizenship and removes all doubt as to what persons are or are not citizens of the United States. It's long been a great desideratum, pronouncing that wrong, in the jurisprudence of the legislation of this country." He quite literally stated in 1866 in the debate, in written historical quote, "This will not include foreigners, aliens, etc." So how, for the life of me, we got to this point where we were just like literally anybody at any point who comes here and has a kid, that kid's a citizen, is insane. I believe it is corrupt individuals seeking to corrupt ends to corrupt this country. And that is how, not even that long after this man died, he died only, I believe, about 5 years after this debate, they immediately said, well, now that we think about it, he must have meant everybody for all time. And here we are with this great conundrum as to what it means for this country to be a citizen. Donald Trump is correct in this executive order, and I hope the Supreme Court finds it as such.
There are a lot of people that, well, in case you're not aware of it, this is the next necessary step to get this in front of the Supreme Court. So this is exactly why Donald Trump made the executive order, so that way someone would challenge it, so that way you can go ahead and go up go through the necessary steps to get in front of the Supreme Court. So.
Yeah, as somebody who was who's looking for a citizenship myself at the moment, I kind of wish my mum had looked ahead. But it is kind of crazy that you can do that and you can just have a baby and your family history from then on is forged in America.
How absurd is it? I'm about to have a kid. I was talking to Allison. I'm like, should we just take a trip quick up to Canada real quick? That way our kid will have the option of Canadian citizenship and American citizenship. And she looked me dead in the eyes and said, who on God's green earth would want Canadian citizenship? Yeah, it's gonna. We all laughed and high-fived, and then we carried on for the day.
It should be.
It's actually not what happened, but
should be another state, shouldn't it? Canada? Aren't you guys going to annex it at some point?
Yeah, but the problem is it would be several states. Like Texas was going to be 5 different states because it's so big, and then it chose to be 1. Would have been great if it was 5.
It would probably be another . state as well. So
Yeah, the border, the southern. If Texas was 5 states, the southern border ones would be Democrat. Yeah, that's the thing about Canada. It would be broken up into several states. There certainly are very many conservative areas. There would be more red states added, but it's no, we don't want Canada.
We need comprehensive immigration reform from Congress and not the executive branch. And that's why I think a lot of this stuff is going to get muddied. I'm not a lawyer. I can't perfectly break down how this law is going to be interpreted. And I feel like you could interpret it both ways depending on how you would like to.
It's a question of the Supreme Court, not necessarily of Congress. The Supreme Court is going to answer the question on the 14th Amendment, and I hope they answer it correctly, as for Jacob B. Howard, I believe his name was, his exact quote. It's remarkable He literally said it does not include, is of course will not include foreigners or aliens. And yet here we are. How that is so shockingly offensive. Like at some point, some judge was just like, "Nah, we wanted to," and like, well, okay, now we have a crisis. So the next step is obviously going to be with this temporary block. There's going to be an appeal. It's going to go to SCOTUS, and we're likely going to see what is a 6-3 court issue their ruling.
Passport bros take advantage of this stuff, you know. You get the passport bros around the world who will be like, all right, I'm going to have a baby. Argentina, Mexico, new passports every single time for the family. So you don't want to be one of those countries.
Do you have any sense that should the Supreme Court rule that if someone is born here, doesn't matter the circumstances, essentially anchor babies are acceptable under the Constitution, do you think that the American people have the stomach to actually produce an amendment and change that?
Produce an amendment?
I don't think it would pass. That's the thing. No, it wouldn't. They wouldn't be able to pass the threshold to do it. I don't think.
Okay.
We're not going to get a new amendment ever.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my sense as well. So it's like there's some people that I'm friendly with, they're talking about this and they say, well, if this goes to the Supreme Court, because it's plainly worded and the Supreme Court finds that Donald Trump is right, that anchor babies aren't covered under the 14th Amendment, that's not what they meant, then they're going to call that judicial activism and that they're legislating from the bench. Now, I don't really agree with that. I don't think that that's the case because I do think that subject to the jurisdiction thereof, I think if you just get over the line and have a kid, I don't think the person's actually subject to the jurisdiction because they're not a citizen of the country.
Howard clarified this. He actually stated in the debate that it does not involve partial jurisdiction. It is only complete jurisdiction.
Okay. Well, like I said, I'm only relating the argument that I don't agree with.
How long's it been there for?
Since 1860, I think.
1866.
Yeah.
The thing about our immigration system is literally every single part of it is being taken advantage of and being manipulated by actors without our best interests. So not only are they taking advantage of birthright citizenship, people are taking advantage of our H-1B system and how they're getting work visas into our country. They're gone.
1868. Sorry.
And the reason, oh, sorry.
Not even just birthright citizenship or the H-1B visa system. They're also abusing chain migration, where if you're an American citizen, you could marry somebody and then bring over their kids, and they'll become American citizens too. So there was originally supposed to be a limit when I believe they passed the Hart-Celler Immigration Act of 1945, something like that. We need immigration reform on the grand scales, and just doing it through executive action will leave us open to all of this being able to be undone in the future. I don't think we can rely on the Supreme Court trying to interpret different laws different ways to try to get this goal done.
So then
Congress
you're saying,
needs to act.
So Congress
we need new laws to be passed.
But if this is an amendment thing,
it'll have to go to the Supreme Court.
It'll have to be the Supreme Court, or it'll have to be an amendment, because this was passed long before there was any, before Social Security, before any kind of government assistance program. And the idea that you can come here, have a baby, get over the line and have a baby 2 days, 3 days after you get here, and that child gets to stay, or even if the child gets to come back when it's 18 and bring the family back when they're older, then they get onto Social Security, then they get, some kind of support from the federal government. No American's going to be okay with that.
Well, even pragmatically, it's like birthright citizenship, you have the kid, it stays here, but then it's going to be more difficult and ethically difficult to remove the parent as well, because just imagine how that plays on the news. Oh, this kid's been an American here. This kid's 4 years old, and his dad's been here for 5 years. And what? Now you're just going to deport one person who's going to take care of the child. And that's how they will emotionally blackmail people into accepting amnesty for n number of
Be strong. Events. Be strong. That's all I ask. Be strong. Tom Homan said they can go back with their family. We'll keep the families together. And he's right. I am deeply offended that when Trump shuts down the border immediately because we know about the child trafficking going on, the media plays an image of a crying woman. Oh, no, the woman's crying. Quick, tear up the Constitution. Be strong. Resist the manipulation attempts and be strong and say, listen, we are not doing this to make that woman suffer. We are doing it because there's abhorrent evil happening on our border, from murder to rape to child trafficking, and it must be stopped. And that means some nice people who are trying to enter illegally, I'm offended by that, but okay, are going to have to be told they can't come in, and the port of entry is that way.
Yeah, you guys are going to have to get smart to this as well, because right now you've obviously got a wave of immigration happening from Latin America. It's been happening since maybe the 60s, was it the Immigration Act of 1965 or something like that? Before that, it was more Western European, Northern Europeans. And then the next wave of immigration, if you're not careful, is going to be Indian, Chinese, etc.
It already is.
But like on a massive scale, like it's happened in Australia, for example, and like it's happened in Europe, but it's happened from the Middle East in Europe.
Yeah.
And when these cultures clash, it's not like there are a bunch of Catholics coming in. When these cultures clash, it is civilization destroying.
Well,
you walk
To be
around
fair,
Melbourne
they
or Sydney,
clashed with the Catholics when they first came here too.
well,
and
they
also-
do clash, but not to the extent where these people. Where it's just a lot worse when you look at the Indian and the Chinese populations of Australia, for example.
That
They're
is
actual
different. But if you're talking about immigration from South America, that's a lot of Catholics. So the problem is they're liberation theologists Catholics. They're socialist Catholics. So
yeah. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying
with that, but
liberation theology.
you started saying like James Lindsay with the socialist.
Liberation theology is a legit thing. That's part of the
do you
reason
work
why
right
the current pope from Argentina is like a lot of Catholics are like when it comes to the current pope because like he's actually a liberation theology Catholic. It's a different understanding of Catholicism.
Sounds like that lady who gave that sermon at the recent.
Well, she's
Trump,
Episcopalian, and so she's a heretic. So
And you making fun of James Lindsay makes me think that you work right. You work right.
I'm just trying to have a good time on this Thursday evening.
So yeah, I mean, I think that I would like to see the 14th Amendment. I would like to see the court come back and say no. It's clear that they didn't mean that anchor babies were a thing, but I don't know for sure that that's what we get, and I don't know what kind of backlash that means from the people that do think that it should be that anchor babies should be okay. So.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.